So in today's video, we are going to be canning something that is probably my most favorite of anything that we have canned. Some of the canning that we do is with tomatoes, like with sauces, green beans, pickles, things of that nature. But today, we are going to be canning jalapenos. And not just any jalapenos. We're going to be making Cowboy Candy. So Todd is preparing the jalapenos right now, just by cutting them up.
About 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch thick.
And as you notice, he is wearing gloves. It's very, 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 very important that you wear gloves. Because if you don't, and you're touching the peppers, and then you go do something and you touch your face or other areas of your body, you'll figure it out the first time, right?
Yep, you'll figure it out the first time you do it.
Okay, so this is part of the prep. We have a full bowl here. We went ahead and we weighed the amount of jalapenos we had. Most of them actually came from the farmer's market because I planted my jalapenos too late. I only had a handful of them to add to this, but hopefully we'll have another batch later on in the summer. So we're getting all these cut up. Oh, the weight. It was 5 pounds, 1.6 ounces, what the jalapenos weighed. The recipe that Todd found was online. He has canned this before. Last year we did. Or I should say Todd did. So we know this is a tried and true recipe. When we made it last year, they did not last long at all. This year we're hoping to make a lot more of them. That's why I planted a whole bunch of jalapeno peppers this year. So not only do we eat this, but we sometimes gift the candied jalapenos at Christmas time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the whole process. So based on the amount of peppers that we have in that bowl and the size pot that we have right here, Todd is afraid it's going to boil over. So he's going to be making this in 2 batches. So how much sugar did you pop in there?
6 cups.
6 cups of sugar.
2 cups of cider vinegar.
Apple cider vinegar.
Yep. 1/2 teaspoon of celery seed. 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper.
1 teaspoon?
1 teaspoon.
Okay.
Cayenne.
Ooh, this is going to be super spicy. Not only do we have the jalapenos, but we got the cayenne pepper going.
And 3 teaspoons of garlic, granulated garlic.
We use a lot of granulated garlic in a lot of barbecuing and other cooking recipes. Todd is going to go ahead and stir this up really well, and while he's doing that, he's got to bring it to a boil. We are at the boiling point. We are going to let it boil for how long?
Well, now after it comes to a boil, you turn it down and let it simmer for 5 minutes.
Turn it down to low. Do a little stir. Let it simmer for how long?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, we have about 6 seconds left. It is still simmering. Once the buzzer goes off, which there it is.
Okay, you're going to bring it back to a hard boil.
Hard boil. And since we are cutting this recipe in half, well, like we have to do it in 2 batches.
I'll put about half of those jalapenos in there. Bring this back to a hard boil, and then let it simmer for 4 minutes.
So once it reaches boil, then you just drop it down to a simmer again for about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then as a side note, the recipe that we are making today is essentially for a double batch, which would be 6 pounds. So a single batch is 3 pounds. We only have 5 pounds, 1.6 ounces, like I mentioned, but Todd's going ahead and making it for a double batch. If we have any leftover liquid, we'll save that in a separate jar, but we probably won't.
I don't know.
But we'll see. We'll just see. Bringing it to a boil. Gonna do some continuous stirring. or periodic stirring. Just don't want anything sticking to the bottom since there's a lot of sugar in this. Oh my gosh, this smells amazing. Okay, so we're gonna call this a hard boil, and now we're going to turn it down to simmer again.
4 minutes.
4 minutes. 4 minutes on the clock. You can see how it's already starting to change color. This is before cooking, and this is after the cooking so far. We still have about 1 minute, 18 seconds left. Okay, buzzer just went off.
I'm gonna shut it off.
Okay, we're shutting it off. And then what?
Take these over here and start putting the jalapenos in a jar.
Okay, gonna start the canning process. If you don't have one of these, if you plan on canning, you gotta get one. I even use that for filling my mason jars with my oatmeal in the morning. Oatmeal, blueberries, and almond milk. Mmm, breakfast of champions. I will be sure to link the entire recipe down in the description box below. So Todd's gonna continue. Got a storm going on outside. I don't know if you can hear that thunder. So Todd's gonna go ahead and finish filling these jars. And I have a wooden skewer. You don't want to use metal with anything whenever you are canning. So you want me just to kind of poke it down?
Yeah. Just gonna poke them down and see if we can get more in it. There you go.
Okay. You could probably use. So I'm going to continue doing this until we get it filled. Look at all that liquid. This is going to be so good. Now, after we filled the jars, we're putting the pot with the liquid back on the stove, and we're bringing it to another boil
for 6 minutes.
For 6 minutes.
Hard boil, 6 minutes.
All right, we're going to get this baby candied. So we will go ahead and set the timer for 6 minutes. Time is up. Now we're going to take the liquid and fill the jars. This is where we're going to fill it to a 1/4 head space. This is my favorite canned good that we do. My absolute favorite. So I'm going to just go ahead and take this wooden skewer while he's filling that up and just make sure there is no air bubbles in here. Just got to make sure all that liquid is down in between. No air bubbles are left behind. Now we're just going to top it off.
Okay.
All right.
Now let me see. Give me a big mason jar.
Now we're going to go ahead and save the remainder of this liquid. I knew we were going to have some extra, but that's okay. This will not go to waste. We have this filled to the max. There was just a very little bit of liquid left, but he's just going to go ahead and add to this. Basically going to repeat the whole process, what we just did. So the next time you see us, we're going to be placing the jars of jalapeno into the water bath. One more step before we put this in the bath water. Anytime you can, you have to wipe the top off, but it's very, very important to do it with this recipe, only because there's a lot of sugar in it. And so I'm wiping everything off, anywhere where, whether the lid's going to be or where the ring is going to be. Anything that's on the side will be fine because it will come off in the bath water, so that's not a big deal. But you just have to make sure that everything is completely wiped down. This is just a damp paper towel, just plain water and squeezed out. And I'm going to do this probably a couple of different times just to make sure there is no stickiness that's left behind. And then after I do that, I'm going to come back with a dry paper towel, at least where the at least where the lid is going to be on the top. to dry it off. So this is, it's a pretty sticky mess with this recipe. But it is going to be so good, so good. And the jars are very, very hot, so be very careful with that as you handle it. You can use, I'm using the paper towel, it's okay for me. You could use, you know, a dish towel. But now I'm coming behind with the dry paper towel and just making sure this is dry. These are brand new lids. You never want to use already used lids. And then with the rings, okay, it is okay to reuse rings as long as they're still intact. And then you just have to tighten them, as they describe it, finger tight.
So we got 5 pints.
So we have a total of 5 pints, which equates out to about 1 pound per pint jar. So, because like I said, it was 5 pounds, 1.6 ounces. So we'll estimate about 1 pound per pint jar. Todd just filled the pot with hot water.
Some more in there.
And we're gonna go ahead and bring this to a boil and cook for how long?
20 minutes.
So we will bring this to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, then we'll set the timer for 20 minutes. We're filling this about 2 inches above the lids. So, well, maybe about, what, my almost second knuckle high. Once it comes to a boil, you're gonna put the lid on first and let it come to a boil. Might work faster. We'll be right back. This is the candied liquid that was left over. So I'm not gonna water bath can these. I'm just going to leave them in these containers. I have a couple of ideas of what or how we're going to use this. So it's come to a boil. I'm going to put the timer on for 20 minutes. And start. The countdown is on. The buzzard went off. We'll go ahead and get these lifted out. Okay, I'm going to carefully lift these out. Five beautiful jars of Cowboy Candy made with jalapeno. And then I have these jars with the leftover liquid. We're gonna let this Cowboy Candy sit overnight until it's completely cool before I transfer it downstairs onto my shelf that I have all the other canned goods. That is how we make Cowboy Candy. Nothing special. I think there's a lot of recipes out there that are very similar, if not the same. But if we can do it, you can do it. And I want to give a shout out to my girls, Alex and Hayden. I know that you don't do canning and you don't do gardening or anything yet, but there might be a day that you do. And I hope that you find me later down the road on YouTube and you can watch these videos and make your own Cowboy Candy one day. I love you girls. And for the rest of you, if you stuck with me, thank you for watching. Until next time.